happened. We kind of grew up in an interesting time in the decades. I think I'm a little older than you guys, where we grew with the technology. We evolved with everything, and the kids today, everything's handed to them. Here's the internet. Here's Google. Here's a phone. Here's a
game. So it's funny that the kids today, they think they're smarter than their older generations. Because the older generations actually created this technology.
Created it. We evolved.
Kids today, they have no idea. They're just working off a platform that's already built.
Right. The power goes out. We know how to handle it. Right. The kids today, they're like, "What do I do? Oh my god!"
They can't handle being off their phone for 5 minutes.
Exactly. Or the cell phone.
Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to the chat. Today is just a very informal chat. Just going to talk about anything you want to talk about. So, any questions that you have, please put some cues in front. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. We're also joined by John from Carnivore Teacher, and Rick, the 40-year carnivore, Charger Mopar. Okay, so promises to be a good, informative, and fun chat. So please feel free to join in.
Duck.
Okay. I'm the quack of the channel.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have a look at Rick's latest video, you can see how fast he's working. So you know he's on quack. Okay, so what are we talking about? We were just talking about technology, how it was developed, when it was developed. Some of the better stuff was actually created back in the past, and more reliable stuff, and resilience with people, because we tend to look in the past as not being very well educated or not being very smart and so on and so on, the narrative and all the rest of it. But it was the people from the past that actually built these technologies that everything is built on now. They built the platforms. They built, they built the first airplanes. They built the first televisions. They built the first phones and computers and everything like that. That all came from nothing. So when you look at technology today, it's all based on something that was built in the past. So they were the real thought leaders, really, back in the past, as I think, anyway. And readers are leaders, and a lot of people, back in the past, so they had to read to do everything. Whereas today, they don't have to read so much. They just look up a YouTube video. Whereas, like John was saying, kids have everything handed to them now, and when it's taken away, they don't know what to do. I think that's been a lot. I think you could pretty much argue that's the same with diet. Like people knew how to eat 200 years ago. Even books.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
If you think about the amount of time we humans, our modern humans, have been on the planet without electricity, without all of our gadgets and modern technology, it's hundreds, thousands of years, and thousands of years. And it's just within the last 170, 140 years, we have this explosion of everything, Industrial Revolution, which came, and then everything came so fast. And then when computers came into being, and the microcomputer and the nanocomputer, it is just an explosion. Now we have AI, which is really kind of exciting and yet a little spooky now that I've seen the Terminator movies. It's where are we going? Where is it going to be in 10, 20, 30 years? If we're going this fast? From my childhood, I was born in the 60s. We didn't have, I remember color television was new. Not everybody had a color television. And there were still people with black and white TVs. And when my parents were born, they only had radio. And when my grandparents were born, they didn't have electricity. So we're rocketing so fast into the future. And I don't know. We're leaving a lot of common sense behind. I think the modern people today don't have some of the skills that our ancestors had that brought us here today.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of that resilience is lost.
It is. We're not flexing those muscles as much, or different people. Fewer people are flexing those muscles, and the rest of us are just sitting back and enjoying it.
That's another reason why I like talking to Rick, because he's very resilient too. Like, he's still doing everything himself, like, and the same we would be doing a couple of 100 years ago. Like, he grows a lot of food. He makes his own fuels. Very resilient, and these are skills that people today would just lose their minds if they lost their technology for a day. You start. That's where you get like panic buying and things like that.
They do. They, when I was in middle school and the Wi-Fi went down, the kids freaked. They couldn't. And when the internet went down, just the internet, not electricity, the internet would go down for a whole day. All the computers in my classroom and their cell phones, like, what do we do? I rolled in the encyclopedia cart and I taught them how to look things up alphabetically. They didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
You believe that?
That's right.
They didn't know how to do it. It took them forever to find something alphabetically. That scared the crap out of me. It's like this. These are our children. I'm teaching them all these other higher level thinking skills, and they don't know these lower level thinking skills anymore, because all they have to do is say, "Hey Siri."
That's really scary. People actually rely on Siri, for example. That has a very strong political bias as well. So, and that's what they're learning from. It's that's a bit of a worry. I like this comment. Please don't show us any quacks, please. Yeah, don't want to see any plumbers. Don't want to see any plumbers quacks either.
Well, it's funny because everybody I know, they are very heavily reliant on internet and cloud and all that stuff. And it's like everybody I know, their music is on their phone or in some service. And you know how it is here in Florida. We get hurricanes about every 10 years. We get a major hurricane every 100 years. You can go without power for days, and you're not going to have any cell phone, no internet or nothing. And we had our last hurricane, which was Irma in 2017. Everybody I know, they couldn't play any music because they didn't have anything. But I got all my records and 8-tracks and cassettes and reel-to-reel. Plus, I keep digital files on my local computer. So all I do is fire up the old generator, and I can have all the music I want. I can run my air conditioner. I have all my meat safe and sound in the freezer. So the thing is, when the power goes off, that's when I'm the happiest. So I always look forward to a major hurricane because, number one, I got so much work I can barely keep up with it. And number two, I got fuel stocked up that can last me for 6 months to a year. And number three, I got electricity, air conditioning. Everybody else is just dying because you know how it is here in Florida. Once the power's out, within a couple hours, it becomes extremely uncomfortable. And nobody can sleep here without air. I've been able to do it, but at least I have fans. And then they run out of food. The veggies rot. There's no survival. And maybe they could eat canned food, but how long can you eat that before you just get sick of it? Meanwhile, I'm enjoying steak and burgers and having a big fat heart attack burger, heart attack chicken. I got all the gas I need from my biogas digester. I don't have to worry about electricity. The rest of the neighbors, they got electric stoves and microwaves. That isn't going to work.
What's a biogas digester? What is that?
Biogas digester is basically an IBC tank, which is one of those square plastic tanks in a metal cage. You put grass clippings and plant material along with poop and water, and then you let it ferment, and it produces methane.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
You fill it up about maybe 3/4 of the way with the mix of this stuff, and then it starts to ferment. It's like a big above-ground septic tank.
Yeah, like they do in Africa.
Right. And then what I do, I got a couple of those air mattresses, like people used to go in the swimming pool and float around in it. And I got that hooked up with hoses. And then there's a little valve. So what happens is when you got, let's say, you're producing gas and you want to cook, you just lay a piece of wood on top of the air mattress and that produces pressure. Then you go to your stove, you turn it on, light up your stove, and you're ready to cook. And you can look out the window and see how the air mattress is doing. When the one air mattress starts to run down, you just turn the valve off, turn the other one on. But usually one air mattress is all you need to cook one meal. And then you have to wait a few hours. It'll fill the other one. And as long as you keep it going, now it starts losing gas production. You switch to the other tank. You connect them together. When you're done with it, you're left with basically compost that you can put into your yard.
Right. Wow.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah, and then you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about propane. You don't have to have natural gas because you're making your own gas. And I used to laugh because about 10 years ago on the internet, they had a joke. I think it was called the Flatula Backfire Car. I don't know if you ever saw that. You saw that?
Sounds like something you'd make, Rick.
Well, somebody did that. And what it is, I guess it's a car designed for vegans because they sit in the car and they fart all the time. And then the farts make the car run. If you look it up online, just look for Flatula Backfire and
God.
you'll see. But that's kind of like that, but except for cooking.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Brilliant.
Oh, thanks for cooking.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant. Yeah, scary stuff, John. It's amazing how the internet is so addictive and made real research gotten skilled. Yeah, it's computers that are addictive because of the blue light. The blue light, is really makes your body react like insulin wise and blood sugar and everything. They actually are blaming it for diabetes, part of the cause for diabetes as well, because people spend so much time on computers. But it is very addictive, and I think it's that way for a reason. But actually, I'll be talking in the next couple of weeks or so. I'll be talking to a doctor about that blue light addiction, Dr. Max Gilhan, here in Australia. But there's also a company launching a new computer soon. I think the next week or two, that has no blue light, and it's just gray based, and it allows you to sort of focus on without actually getting that blue light addiction or damage from the.
Does it have color though? Does it show the colors in the screen?
They work well. At the moment, the first one coming out is all gray, but like I say, everything's in black and white. But they are working on a color version. They do have a prototype for that at the moment, but they will be launching a color version soon, hopefully. So, interesting stuff coming out. Yeah,
maybe we should all be wearing these blue light glasses. I wear them 2 hours before I go to bed at night if I'm going to be watching a movie or something on TV because I don't want my sleep to get messed up. And I'm wondering if we should wear them all the time when we're on the computer during the day.
Yeah, I think
not just at night.
Yeah, I think we should have like even during the day. I mean, like during the day, you want your cortisol out so you can. It's your wake up hormone, but. When it comes to blue light from computer screens and things like that, it's because it is so addictive. I think it would certainly help you to concentrate on what you have to do as well. Yeah. So, but that's why you can't get kids off these damn things. You can't, people got their noses buried in their cell phones all the time.
They're also they're dopamine hits.
They can't even cross the road.
Yeah,
they can't even cross the road without looking at their damn phone.
I know.
You know.
They won't look up.
Seriously.
Whoa, heads up! I'm coming. I'm riding my bicycle, and there's a little narrow path, and I actually have to ring my bell. They don't hear it. I have to shout. They have their earbuds in. They can't hear me. I have to go on the grass and go around them. They won't look up.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's nuts.
I'm the only one that doesn't use a cell phone.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I don't use one either.
I don't have one.
So, yeah.
When I think of a phone, this is what I think of.
Yeah, landline's all you need. I don't have anything that important that between traveling time that I need to have a phone that I can talk to people. When I go to the gym, I don't want to talk to people.
You don't
things
want
like that. So,
right.
Yeah. Question: is that charging Mopar, Rick? Yes, it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's me.
There he is.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm here to scare everybody away. They say, "Oh, what happens if you're a carnivore for decades? Or you're going to be like that skinny, sickly-looking Rick."
Not sickly looking though.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be 56 in a few weeks.
Oh yeah,
56.
Yeah, 56 in a few weeks.
That's awesome.
That is great.
And actually, just get back to that no power thing. People, when you have we see it on the news all the time because America is they always tell us when something bad happens, but whenever there's a disaster of any kind and there's no power, you see all the panic buying, the looting, and all the drama that goes on. People just lose their minds. They have no idea what to do, they're all just.
During COVID, everybody bought all the toilet paper up in America. We couldn't buy toilet paper. I don't know what that was.
I don't use any.
Okay, let's go there.
I have soap
do
and
you
water and washcloths.
All right.
Why would I want to use a piece of paper to smear around a bunch of poop? That's disgusting.
You can flush
So
it.
I use a garden like a hose, and I got a soap, and then I use one of the washcloths. I keep a collection of them. Then I rewash them and dry them off. So I got a stack of them. I only go to the bathroom once a day, so what's the big deal?
The babies before the modern diapers, they had cloth diapers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
You
it.
would wash all the diapers.
and there's new ones, there's throwaway ones now. They're quite toxic.
They're in the landfill. It's all plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even use paper towels. I don't use. My garbage is almost empty. I throw out zero garbage except for I don't even throw out the plastic containers the meat comes in. They go into the diesel distiller. So all that plastic goes to make fuel.
Methane. Wow.
What goes to make diesel, because
Does
I
it?
cook plastic. Yeah, I cook plastic into diesel, and also it makes a gas that I can use to heat up the burner.
Wow.
My old truck used to run on wood, and I put plastic along with the wood, and then that made a gas that would run the engine.
You
So
are a field trip. I swear to God, if I had a class, I would take it sounds fascinating. I would love to take a class. You could demonstrate all these systems.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's something you do, Rick. Yeah, show people how to be more resilient.
Self-sufficient.
Well, I don't want to spread the word around too much, or the county will be all after me again. But when I moved to
if you're burning plastics, all right, who's smelling that? Your neighbors, right?
No, you don't smell anything. The system that I have is completely clandestine. Nobody knows what's going on. My house from the air looks like an empty lot. I got trees and bushes, and it's all covered up, and everything is hidden. But in the backyard, I have what's basically like a small oil refinery. I have my gas producers. They're those IBC tanks, just like 3 of them stacked up back there. There's like 2 and then 1 on top. And I got pipes running off of there and air mattresses. I had a friend one time come over and says, "Why do you have all those air mattresses? You don't have a swimming pool." I said, "No, it's for the biogas." One time I had a backfire. The whole thing exploded, but it wasn't really a big deal. It was just a big pop. It was like somebody blew up a firecracker. And I think some people were looking around. Nobody knew where it came from. But what happened was the flame got out of the kitchen. It went back and blew up the air mattress.
Sounds
But
like
it's
a scene in Martian.
but it's not enough to cause any real damage. It was just like a big balloon popping.
All right.
But I'll tell you one thing. It's a great way to cook because you never have to worry. Power goes off. You can still keep on cooking. It's free. I got all my neighbors and friends bringing me their pet waste, and I dump it in the tank. I just tell them, don't put it in those plastic bags, because then I got to take it out of those nasty things. Either put it in a paper bag or put it in a container, and I'll dump it in. So we got dog poop, cat poop, all kinds of stuff thrown in there, and a bunch of grass clippings and hedge trimmings, and then some water, and you just let it ferment, and it makes a lot of gas. Think about it. It's like a giant cow.
Yeah.
It's just produced, but it produces a lot more methane. Actually, you get more methane out of garbage than you do out of cattle.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, when garbage starts fermenting, you get a lot of methane.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, that's why I keep telling people you should have you should store some camping equipment and some like hunting equipment, even if it's just like fishing equipment, so you can at least eat fish if you go. Go to a river or something, do some fishing or something. But when power goes out, you need something to keep you going. Like, I actually don't mind not having electricity, to be honest, because it's really good for your circadian rhythm to sleep at when it's dark and get up when it's light. So you actually feel pretty good when there's no electricity around.
The problem is in Florida, without electricity, you cannot sleep because it is extremely hot. The heat and humidity here is punishing. Yeah. If it's 95 during the day, it's 85 at night. There's only a 10-degree difference. It would only be in the wintertime, and even that, most of the time, you got to have air conditioning. I think
last winter was beautiful, though. This last winter, we had a lot of cool days and cool nights.
Yeah, but I was only like 14 days out of the whole season that I could go without air conditioning. I've had to run air because you go to sleep and then you wake up at 3 a.m. sweating. Then you got to turn the fan on. Then it gets too cold. Then it gets hot. It's like up and down.
You're
so I said,
get mildew and mold if it gets too humid. It's almost
It depends on your house. If you have an old house like I do, you don't have to worry about mildew because it's all lime plaster. It's not drywall.
Yeah.
Drywall is where the mildew gets in.
Right.
But the lime plaster, like in the old days, they just took wooden strips and plastered over it. This one has gypsum board, but a plaster. It doesn't get mold. But a lot of the newer buildings, they get mold really easy.
Right.
They have a lot of synthetic.
Have to
They
run
have
that
the drywall.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, some of the better stuff was made back in the past,
Again, there we go. Right. Yeah.
and some of those more modern building materials, they're cheaper. They make their materials a lot cheaper to build with, but they have a lot of problems with them, like mold developing and things like that. But they're not as strong either. A house today is very flimsy compared to a house built 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it all just comes down to cost. We're always trying to save costs, But like I was saying with electricity, like a lot of people lose their minds, but it's really good to have like when I know like what you're talking about heat wise here, it's very hot and humid in summer as well. It's very tropical over here, especially because we're up north in north of Australia, north part. So it's really tropical. But like throughout the night, I'll wake up in a pool of sweat. My wife doesn't like air conditioning, so it gets too cold for her. And so I just have to sweat next to it. I've got actually my side of the bed will be wet from sweat when I wake up in the morning. Her side will be dry. So but it's just the way it is.
Wow.
It's all good. But like I really don't mind going without electricity. I quite like it. But as I said, you have to have you need something to be able to cook, you need to be able to store food, and you need to be able to find food as well. So
and like Rick, we have a generator. We're South Floridians, a lot of us have a backup generator. So that my freezer in my garage and my refrigerator, I got a lot of money invested, a lot of meat in there.
Mm-hmm.
To go bad. So I'm
that's good.
Start my generator once a month to run it through and let the gas drain. I either have propane or gas, and we
I use diesel generator, but they're good.
Yeah,
I got a 15 kilowatt.
Good.
A nice big one.
It's old. It's a Lister. It's 2-cylinder diesel. It's from the 40s, I think.
Wow.
But it works.
Yeah.
But you don't even hear it. It's the regular generator runs at like 3,000 RPM. This one's less than 1,000.
Is it?
It just kind of it just like chug chug chug. It sounds like an air compressor, and when the doors close to the generator box, you can't even hear it. So, and then on top of that, the exhaust heats the water, so I get hot water for basically free.
That's great.
And I mean, it just has to run the air conditioning. Then it charges the battery backup, which runs the electronics.
Right.
I have lights. Now, I do spend more electricity on lights because I use incandescent lights only. I mean, I have fluorescent in the shop, but I don't have any LED bulbs. It's all incandescent. And they're very inefficient, but they last forever. I mean, some of these light bulbs are 30 years old, and they're still good.
Yeah. Again, the older ones, they're built to last, Really.
These are traffic light bulbs. When I used to work on traffic signals, I got a lot of them when they would get rid of them, and that's what I use in the house.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
I got some around here. They're all over the place.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like, I want to get a generator, but I don't know what kind or what I live in. Okay, or what I live in New Mexico.
Do a Google search for what works well in your. I know in New Mexico you guys have the swamp coolers on the roofs. I'm sure a regular gas generator will work, the same kind that we have. However, let's see. We have a Lister.
Well, I'd recommend a generator, or
the problem is
the biggest one you can too.
Well, the problem is the bigger they are, the more fuel they take. I mean, someone mentioned natural gas generator. I mean, they work, but they're expensive to run. I mean, some of those things can cost you $10 a day. So it really, or more, depending on how much of a load you have. What I did, I reduced my power load. My electric bill is around $100 a month. And then, when I run the generator, I've eliminated the water heater. I go for diesel because diesel can sit for a really long time and then start right up. I've had diesel engines sit, like my dad's van sat for 11 years and I got it started. But
So
gasoline,
fuel, I know gas starts to, I don't know what it does. It starts to gum up, right? Unless you put the
it
gas.
goes off.
gasoline in its pure form will last forever, but the problem is it has additives, and what ends up happening is it oxidizes. So gasoline will evaporate, then it will oxidize, and then it turns to varnish, and it can actually turn into acetic acid and some other things, and it'll just eat all of your metal components. It'll rust everything out. It'll corrode aluminum. Gasoline has to be changed. If you have a gas generator and you store it, make sure you drain the carburetor and then run it till it runs out of fuel, and then you can let it sit. But if you leave gas in it, it's just going to gum up in 6 months, dissolve the fuel line. So either you run it at least once a month, or you just go ahead and just drain all the fuel out of it and let it sit. I have a portable gas generator in my closet that I use for quick emergencies, and I've had it sit for a year, and I just pour gas in it, start it up, it runs fine.
Because you didn't have it let it sit in the carburetor.
Because I didn't have it sit in the carburetor.
I learned that the hard way. I
Yeah.
ruined the whole generator I didn't know. And then I learned that you have to you turn off the supply valve until the thing shuts it, till it runs out of its own gas.
That's right. And you got to empty the tank. The thing is, you got to empty the tank.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I actually remove the tank. I empty it. I stick a rag in there and clean it all around.
Right.
Then I spray it with WD-40 so it can't rust. And it can sit, like I said, I think it sat for 2 years at one time. That was before we had Hurricane Irma. And then my mom was still alive back then. And as soon as the power went off, Mom was having a fit. But I had the portable generator already ready to go. I didn't want to run the big one in the back, because if I run the generator during the hurricane, and let's say that I have a short or a tree falls on the generator shed, the thing could basically blow itself up or catch fire, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I put the portable generator outside, on the side where the wind's blowing on the other side of the wall, and just let it run there until the hurricane's over. And then after that, I switch to the main generator.
I think we're going to have an active season this year, Rick.
Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the rainy season. Right now, it could go either way. But if the rainy season starts in a week or so, then we don't have to worry about the hurricane. But if we go into June and it still hasn't rained, then you better get ready, because 1920
of a severe time in September, October.
Yeah, I've been predicting hurricanes since 1990. I've been accurate every single year, including 92, and we got Andrew. A lot of it depends. I had an old-time neighbor. He lived to like 98, but he used to predict. You remember in the old days, I still found one of the old hurricane charts they used to put in the Miami Herald, and every time that they would give you coordinates, you would draw, and then you'd trace it out to track the hurricanes. Of course, nobody does that anymore because you do it all on the computer. But that guy told me, and he was a meteorologist, he said it all depends on the rainy season. It doesn't matter how many hurricanes we get. In fact, 92 was one of the least active years in Florida. There was only like 1 or 2 hurricanes in the whole hurricane season, and one of them was Andrew.
Last year we were pretty good too.
Yeah, but we didn't get hit. It doesn't matter how active the season is. What matters is where the high pressure, the Bermuda High, is located. If the Bermuda High is where it is now, then we have a serious risk, because when the hurricane develops, it always skirts the edge of the high pressure. If the high pressure is smaller, then the hurricane's going to turn and go to the Carolinas, like it did in the 80s and part of the 90s. But, you get a big enough high pressure, you get like a La Nina from the Pacific, where it starts to cool off, then you get the El Nino ending like it is now. Anything could happen. But it's just going to depend on the rainy season. Just watch the rainy season. If the rainy season is late in coming, then our hurricane risk is high. Now, if we get a normal rainy season, then any hurricanes will probably be in the Gulf. And that could be bad too. But usually a Gulf hurricane isn't going to hit us that badly, because we'll get some wind, but it won't be anything more than Category 1.
Right. Well, the last couple of years, New Orleans got hit over again.
A Cape Verde storm, like from Africa, that's the one. And believe me, if we get a Category 3 or greater and it hits downtown Miami, it's going to be the worst natural disaster in human history.
You guys are getting some killer king tides.
Well, that's part of it. But these massive high-rises they built here, it's nuts. The windows are going to blow out. Buildings are going to collapse.
Wow.
It's going to be it's going to be like Andrew, but worse, because The 1926 hurricane repeated would be a disaster.
Yeah, we had actually, it's the same here in Australia. Like most of our most severe cyclones were like way in the past, like 50 plus years ago. Yeah, but they keep telling us, warning us about the rising sea levels and everything. It doesn't stop them from building all these things right on the damn coast, does it?
No, they
Nope.
don't. Keep doing it.
Total garbage.
Yeah.
It's all about money. They don't care.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's always.
Yeah, especially when you see these climate SARS telling everyone to stop driving cars and stop using fuel and everything, when they worry about rising seas, but they all buy homes and multi-million-dollar mansions right on small islands and right on the beach. So it doesn't worry them, does it?
Not at all. Because the thing is, they get bailed out anytime that something happens to them. They got insurance. They got money from the government. They always get bailed out. These wealthy people, they can take risks because there is no risk for them. The risk is for us. We don't get help, but they always do.
Yeah. But the oceans aren't rising though either. It's total bull BS.
Not here.
I don't know about that. I see it. I see it. I've only lived here since 2001 in Florida, and since 2001 till now, the oceans are rising. We have higher tides than we've ever had before. And when we have king tides, we didn't used to have that before.
Well,
so something's changing.
We've always had them. And
we haven't had the flooding that we.
You look at the coastline markers, like here in Australia, nothing's changed in the last 200 years. But you always do get king tides. It depends on moon activity and things like that. So
I can tell you, I've lived in Florida since 1968. And the city areas seem to have a change in the water level, but down in the Keys, it hasn't changed at all. And I've known people that have lived in Key Largo and Marathon, and there's markers you can see on the 7 Mile Bridge. It's the same as it was 100 years ago. There's no difference.
And they're real low. So you would think
they're
having
right.
Why are we seeing it up here in Miami?
I think it has something to do because the water temperature is so much higher, and the East Coast is being affected. Everything from Miami up to Jacksonville. They've got places that are underwater every time there's a tide now. It's like Miami Beach. There's water comes right up, right into the road.
Through the gutter.
Comes right through the gutter because the ocean is so hot, and that's all the coral reefs. They're starting to get killed because the water's too hot.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah, but we're just getting a lot of heat. And the thing is that the sad thing is that the only thing that's going to fix this is a lot of hurricanes. We need to have a lot of storms. We haven't had an Atlantic hurricane since '92. It's all been in the Gulf. The Gulf isn't as hot.
A good storm to cool the weather down.
We need several major hurricanes. We're going to need big ones. And I hate to say it, but they've put all this development there. There's billions of dollars that are just waiting to be knocked over. It's just one constant development all the way from pretty much Miami all the way up to West Palm Beach. It's just one straight shot of unbelievable development. Giant high rises.
So construction has a lot to do with the temperature, like the ground temperature as well. Like if you go to the city, for example, because it's all enclosed, it's all bitumen, it's all concrete. It's much hotter than when you go out of the city.
And the other problem is when it rains, there's nowhere for the water to go. On one side, you got the sea level rising when there's a tide, and then when it rains, it just floods. You see, like Brickell Avenue, Miami, underwater all the time.
Yeah,
it's just
that's
a mess.
Another thing too. Is the construction that stops the runoff from rain. That's why it's not actually the sea level is rising. It's just the water from the rain is not escaping as well. Whereas before it just run off.
And the other problem, you see all the sediment going out. Every time we get the rainy season with all this construction, there's white sediment flowing out into the bay and out into the Atlantic. It's the whole thing is a giant mess. And then the beaches are constantly washing out. They have to keep bringing more sand in there. It's just it's ridiculous. And then the people keep coming.
Wherever there's construction, like waterside, you're going to have those same problems, and that's the cause of it. There's no runoff. There's no. I mean, we have to replace sand on beaches and things like that.
Are you doing that in Australia too? They
exactly the same. It's exactly the same because a lot of our cities are built on the water. Near the water. So and like I said, like all the heat, it gets trapped in the cities. It stays in the cities. So people in the city always think it's hot because it is.
Well, there's
But you
no
get out of the
grass,
city,
and
it's not
there's
so much.
less grass, fewer trees, less
Yeah.
grass, less nature
Mm.
for the
That's
water
right.
to
That's right.
rip down through, and
Mm.
and or to just stay there, and
Yeah.
it makes
It's just
sense.
not enough runoff, like, and drains that, man-made constructed like drains and things, they just get
Right,
clogged up, you know,
makes sense.
all the rubbish and things like that. So yeah,
Makes sense.
it's that's the only sort of real like man-made construction sort of problem is the problem there, I think.
And it's
But
also it's not just the cities, but also the places where they do a lot of crop farming, because all
yeah,
that plowing and soil work, it destroys the soil structure, and then when it rains, the water just sits on top or runs off.
Yeah.
yeah, and it takes away the topsoil. All the
Hmm.
topsoil just gets runs away because they're not replacing it either. And they try and replace it with man-made fertilizer and stuff like that, which is just toxic anyway, a lot of it, and that just runs off into the water as well. So
Hmm.
it can't do what cattle can do. Cattle give up. Ruminant animals give us topsoil. Um, so
They
that's
also
a real
help. They
problem.
also help prevent pollution by reducing the amount of grass fires.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and forest fires, because they also keep a lot of dead stuff down, like, and new growth they keep down as well. So they actually prevent a lot of forest fires. They give us a topsoil, and that topsoil is also quite important when it comes to fires as well, because it helps absorb the heat and gets rid of actually brush fires will actually die out.
Well, a lot of it is because it holds water, and then the heat causes the water to evaporate, and it slows down the fire. It may even put it out.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
right.
that's another thing. But the
Yeah,
animals, if you let the grass grow really tall, it just kind of dries out, and
yeah,
then it's just there until it burns up. If you have a lot of dry grass, the new grass can't grow in. So the only thing that can grow in there is trees and bushes. Eventually, the grassland will disappear, and it turns into a forest.
yeah. That's the thing too. Like, when it comes to fires, like we always have fire seasons. Like, I know over there, places like California and here in Australia, but a lot of it's caused by government in regulations. Here, the so-called Greens and Labor Party in Australia, they've been over the last 100 years. They keep implementing stricter regulations on farmers. We used to have, like, farmers would make quite big fire breaks. So, like, when you've got like a bit of forest or a heap of trees, they'd make breaks where it just clear some land to stop, so you can stop fires from jumping and continuing to go. So where it's just grassland, it'll give it a break so it'll die out. They actually made it illegal for people to make fire breaks here in Australia, and they also made it illegal for people to pick up dead wood and brush from the forest floor. So you can't even just clear the land. So what happens is you just build up more um, more food for the fire. So of course, when
Hmm.
you get fire bugs that have been proven, like the last few seasons, they've had a lot of arrest. People are actually being paid to start these fires. They get out of hand, and of course, everyone thinks that, oh, it's global warming, but it's just really bad government regulations that, and for I think it's a lot of it's planned. You might call me a conspiracy theorist, but that's the way I think it is. And
Hmm.
yeah, that they have a reason for it, for doing these things.
Here in Florida,
Hmm.
we have a lot of sugar cane plantations, and they burn to get the sugar. They have to burn them.
Yeah,
And
Queensland too.
sometimes that gets out of hand, or they do it on purpose, and we smell them, and we get fires from time to time here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do that here too. We got a lot of sugar cane here in Australia,
Wow. All right.
and like that's I mean, if you had it managed properly, farmers have been farming for a long time, and it hasn't been a real problem until the last 100 years or so. you start getting big government getting into control and just trying to regulate everything to suit their agendas, I guess. But there you go. So I think that's another good reason for people to be self-reliant, like Rick, so that you can. It's not just about natural disasters; it's about what happens when bad regulations affect you as well. Yeah. Anyway, it's always good to be prepared. And
so let's talk carnivore.
Yeah, sure.
Some of our followers who joined in can get some carnivore talk. What did y'all guys have? Well, I would say, what did you have for dinner? But it's a new day for you in Australia. Rick, what did you have for dinner? Did you have duck?
I haven't had dinner yet. I had lunch. Lunch was 2 pounds of beef. And for dinner, I guess I'll have heart attack chicken and shrimp.
And how do you make your heart attack chicken and shrimp?
It's cooked in beef tallow or lard, depending on what I have. It's just basically deep frying. I got videos of it. I just get a pot full of animal fat, get it hot, throw the food in there, let it cook up, and that's it. Scoop it out, and it's delicious.
I had picanha and cooked it a little different tonight. I did a slow cooking of it. I put it on at 2:00 in the afternoon and cooked it real slow until 5 o'clock. Took it off at 5, let it sit for a half hour, and sliced it. It was just amazing. It was so good.
I was also making some non-carnivore foods for a friend. I made him a heart attack burger with sauerkraut. So I was fermenting sauerkraut this week. I got more of it still fermenting.
Yeah.
That's actually I put a comment on that video because it's really good. I think that's another skill people should have too, is preserving food. Because you need to have at least a store of food. Even if you hunt, you still need a store of food for different reasons. But sauerkraut, I find it's great for managing a lot of things in the body because it's the high salt content. It's really good for like colds and flus, esophageal mucus and things like that. But also for IBS. If you have
I know a lot of people that said that they've had digestive issues solved with sauerkraut, which I think is kind of funny because it's a plant. But when you think about it, it's sort of like your own little cow, because the cow chews up plant material and then it mixes it around. And that's what you're doing. You're squeezing cabbage with salt in a container. You're putting it in a jar. You're packing it down, and you're basically pre-digesting it. So in a way, you're just not only eating plant material, but you're eating bacteria and lactic acid. And the one thing that the vegans are always talking about is how bad acid is. All I hear about, this food's going to make you acid and acid. I said, well, you do realize that lactic acid fermentation has been around for thousands of years, maybe longer. And that's how you make sauerkraut. So you have a vegan eating sauerkraut, said that's acid right there. That's full of lactic acid. Oh, well, that's different. I said, your stomach is full of acid. What are you afraid of acid? But there's some kind of idiotic diet. I mean, I think they call Dr. Sebi or something like that. I don't know what this is. These vegans, they have a bunch of nonsense in their head.
There's a belief that you can actually change your acid base ratio in your blood and in your body, and you can't. You absolutely, it's a very tightly controlled by the body. We cannot change our blood pH at all. If we did, it just goes up a little bit, or we're in the hospital, or we could die.
Well, what is the reason why they would want to do that? I mean, I don't understand it.
They think that it's healthier if you have it at a certain rate.
What's the reason? Why would you want to change your cholesterol too?
Control it. Well, they have heard of course, the cholesterol misinformation.
It's all the same. It's all coming from the same place, though. It's just miseducation and stupidity, really.
And it's really bad.
What about good thing about?
What about your cholesterol? And it's like, I have to go down that road. I have to go all the way back to kindergarten and say, let's talk about what it is. Yeah. If somebody's willing to listen, because it's all misinformation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if they're willing to listen.
Which they aren't.
Like another good, most of them aren't. But another good thing about sauerkraut, if you eat cabbage raw, it's one of those foods that actually rots in your colon because it's too hard for your body to digest. Like a lot of these nuts and vegetables and things like that, actually, when you eat them, are too hard for you actually So your food doesn't rot in your colon. So meat doesn't even make it to your colon. It's usually digested and absorbed. All the nutrients are absorbed in your digestive tract into your lymph fluid before it gets to your colon. But foods like cabbage, onion, nuts, and grains and things like that, they're too hard for you to digest. They don't break down, and they get to your colon, and they rot there. And that's what, when you start getting damaged, like
And a lot of times they come out the way they went in.
Yeah, that's right. They come out as a solid.
They can't be broken down.
The thing about fermenting vegetables, such as kimchi and sauerkraut, the salt content for sauerkraut is what makes it, I think, so good. But you've already, because it's already fermented, you've taken a lot of those toxins out of it because of the fermentation. It's then obviously more digestible as well, so you can actually digest something out of it. And because, like I said, the salt content, you're going to get a lot of electrolytes as well. Especially if you're fermenting it in a good salt, then you're going to get a lot of electrolytes out of it as well. That's sauerkraut, I think it's really good. I think kimchi, I'm not too yes, that's fermented vegetables, but they're fermented in sauces, and a lot of those sauces have seed oils and things like that. So that sort of thing you want to be careful of.
My friend that's an ex-vegan, he had so many stomach problems, including a stomach ulcer, and he kept thinking that the stomach is too acid and you get an ulcer. I said, yeah, but the pylori bacteria that make ulcers can't live in stomach acid, so it doesn't make sense. What's going on? And I did a little research, and I found out that the bacteria actually does something to the stomach to reduce the acid production, and that's why when he would eat sauerkraut, it felt better. I said, if you think about it, if you make your stomach more acid, you're going to kill those stupid bacteria, and then your stomach will rebuild, and you won't have those ulcers anymore. And
yet people are taking antacids,
right?
Yeah. Taking a base to neutralize and it's the exact opposite. You need more acid if you're getting indigestion, and it'll close down.
Yeah, because those pathogenic bacteria cannot live in an acid environment. And the other thing is, like, my dad used to have to deal with athlete's foot fungus and other itchy problems. I never got any of that. I've never had any kind of skin fungus or dandruff or any of that stuff. So my theory was this: if it is acid, what's wrong with it? The acid's just going to make it harder for the bacteria to grow. But then again, if I was that acid, my clothes would all disintegrate. They'd have holes in them, and they last just as long as anybody else's. Yeah. So I think it's all a bunch of nonsense. I think that it's just some stupid crap that they made up just to convince people to eat their stupid diet. Right. And think that they're going to be getting better. And they get sick, and they just keep doing it because they say, well, I'm not doing it good enough. I need to be more extreme and more extreme.
It's all lies. It's all lies based on trying to scare us into eating their crap ideological diet and get us off the healthy food like meat, eggs, and things like that, because they can't make as much money either.
We don't give them any money when we're healthy. Absolutely. And we're not buying junk food, and we're not using medicine that we need to heal ourselves from the junk food.
Unfortunately,
we're not using the attorneys to seal to sue the medical companies because of the medicines that harmed us because of the foods that we ate. It's this vicious circle.
But it's the dogma of education as well. Like it's in education all the way up to med school, and like I spoke to Dr. Robert Lufkin. It's the same story. He had the same beliefs as as most people did growing up with the food pyramid. His mother was a dietitian, and he's a professor at medical college.
The lies he taught in medical school, right?
Yeah. Dr. Hampton was the same. He went vegan for 8 years because he believed in people like Gregor. He actually thought that these guys were experts.
It's funny because what I call my foods. What's the number one thing that I always call one of my culinary creations? Starts with heart attack chicken, heart attack burger, whatever. And that about 20 years ago, this guy came up with a heart attack grill. And it was really funny because there was the vegan doctors. They call them the physicians. What is it? Physicians something for responsible Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. That's a vegan propaganda organization. You got Dr. Bernard and Dr. Greger. So I saw, it's the first time I ever saw Dr. Greger. And I looked at this guy. I go, at the time he was like 40 something. I thought, man, this guy looks really old. And he thinks that he looks great. Like, oh, that's not good. And he's younger than me. And look, all these years later, he still looks worse. Like this guy, well, you know, he's always walking on a treadmill and he's bobbing his head up and down. It's really quite funny. And so many of the vegans that I've known, they think that he's so great, you know. And then some of these other famous vegans, you got Michelle the vegan or whatever, that guy with the henna colored beard. And then there's some other goofy vegan, I forget. There's several of them. Then you got the snake oil salesman, Shane Sterling vegan, whatever. And they listen to these people and they believe them.
They're in a bubble. They're in a bubble, and they're only watching their vegan friends and listening to their vegan people that support them, and they're staying within their bubble. And if they go out of their bubble to talk to a carnivore, the way they talk to me on Twitter, it's like I'm this absolutely most disgusting, horrible murderer because I'm eating an animal. You can tell you could tell that they're in this. They've only been associating and communicating with their own people in their bubble. And people could say that about we as carnivores, but
not about me.
I'm talking to everybody. And I'm
I think there's not enough details to the brain.
Doctors and everybody who have articles and studies to back up what we say. They don't have studies to back up what they say.
No.
Well, you know, here in Florida, we have an extreme problem with invasive animals. We have iguanas and ducks and lionfish, and we used to have a lot of wild pigs. Wild pigs are the worst because they'll get into a field, they'll dig up, they'll eat pretty much everything. We used to hunt pigs out in Homestead in that area because they would eat the tomatoes and they would eat the veggies, they'd eat the corn and everything. And I was talking to one of my vegan friends one time. I said, "What are we going to do with all these invasive animals?" "Oh, we can relocate them." "No, we can't, because they're invasive. Where are we going to send them? Where are we going to send these animals to?" "Oh, well, we can put them somewhere and let them live out the rest of their life without reproducing." I said, "You don't understand. These are wild pigs. I want to see you go out there and try to grab one of those wild pigs and take it somewhere. They're mean. They're vicious. You know what? You might as well just shoot them and carve them up and cook them up. You get all that meat and all that lard. Right. Otherwise, you're just going to shoot them and let them rot, which is pretty much what they do."
Vegans live in a delusionary world. Like they think that they're like guilt free. You know. But,
they're killing more animals than we are by number. Yeah,
that's right. The sheer number of animals that die for crops is astronomical.
Talked about this.
I mean, it's not just small animals either. It's not just the rodents that live in the ground or that get plowed up and whatnot, and rabbits and whatnot. You know, it's large ruminant animals like deer, kangaroo, everything like that gets shot to keep them away. Pigs as well. You know, but they get poisoned as well, and they don't get these animals don't get used. They don't get eaten. They just get shot and left there. You know?
Right.
So it's just total waste. You know?
And it also spreads disease.
That's right.
If there's no predators to eat the animals, it's just going to rot and spread disease all over the place.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
So looking at this,
here's a question, guys.
From Desanya.
Anyone watch Dark Waters on Netflix?
I haven't seen that. What is that about, Desanya? Have you guys seen that?
No, I guess
plastics and Teflon or something.
Plastics and Teflon, I guess.
I'm curious.
Yeah, Teflon. Yeah, cooking utensils and stuff like that can be pretty scary stuff too. You know, it just flakes off into your food.
It does.
It causes a lot of problems as well.
If you've watched my videos, you'll see what I cook with.
Yeah.
I never understood. My mother used to have DuPont Silverstone pans. And I could never understand why there was this fear of stuff sticking, because I cook all the time and nothing ever sticks to my pans, ever. So I don't know what the problem is.
I see what you're saying, Scooby the dog. That's what they think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they think. I mean, admittedly, a lot of it, they think that because they're told that by so-called experts, you know, like non-doctors like Greger, He was not a doctor. He was never certified, never actually passed any sort of certification test. He just, he did apparently he did when he finished, he just left it at that. And he's never seen that. He's never had a patient, never been qualified to see a patient. And yet, of course, his social media always reads Dr. Michael Greger because, like I said to Dr. Hampton, it's clickbait. They get these qualifications merely to start a social media career.
I mean, the carnivore doctors are all real doctors. You got Anthony Chafee and Sean Baker, and they're real doctors.
Yeah, that's right.
With years of experience.
Yeah, and years of studies and things like that. So, and experience. Most of them have come from a place where they were following the guidelines as well, but then they realized that it's just completely bogus, and
and many people, doctors included, they a lot of the people, they tell their stories that they were unsick. Like Dr. Ovadia, the guy that said, that wrote the book, I'm going to keep you off my operating table. I mean, he was morbidly obese, and I mean, he was. I don't know if it's part of a person's character to admit that you're wrong. Some of these doctors can't admit that they're wrong.
Yeah.
And turn around. Dr. Berry says that he is doing what he's doing because he now has to fix all the damage that he caused, and he has to apologize for all the bad advice that he gave when he was giving the advice that he was taught in medical school. That's why he wrote his book too. So, it's part of it. They're in their bubble, and people don't want to, especially doctors, they don't want to admit that they were wrong. And I think the vegans don't want to admit that they're wrong. If you're vegan and you live 20 years, you're like, oh, I don't want to, my last 20 years wasn't a waste of my life. I can't, my ego's so big, I can't say I'm wrong. And so
that's right.
It's hard to have a conversation with somebody who's stubborn and has an ego that won't let go, and some of these doctors, I forget this one guy. What is his name? Mohammed something. I can't stand that guy. He just,
Ali or something.
His ego is so huge, he won't let go of all the myths.
Again, he was speaking on stuff that he is not qualified to speak on. He's not even a qualified cardiologist. He's just one of the sideline guys. But again, like I said, it's like the say doctor in front of their name is like clickbait to for people to believe them, because we're all indoctrinated to believe if they've got a white coat on or they've got a doctor in front of them, they know everything.
They know more than anybody else.
Yeah.
We now have the internet. We have access to a lot of the knowledge that they have. They went to school for a few years. They did residency. We didn't do that. Granted, we don't have the time and experience, but we have this available. We didn't have that years ago. We had an encyclopedia. We had a library, and nobody went, you couldn't just go look up medical terms. You looked up one or two medical terms. We have the time to learn how to take care of our bodies now. And we didn't have that just a couple decades ago as easily.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a lot easier to access information now, but I think you have to be very discerning as to what you,
because it's all on the internet. Pandora's box.
That's right.
You've got,
because there's a lot of BS out there as well.
A lot of BS.
I think 90% of it is
a lot of conspiracy theorists. And you've got all the truth. You've got half truths. You've got lies. So you have to use your gut instinct, your instincts. What is the truth? Same thing like when we watch the news here on television. I mean, we've got all the different biases. You have to get, if you want to get your news, you've got to get your news from multiple sources, and then you make up your own mind, because
that's right.
Everybody's coming from a bias, and then I have my bias.
You're afraid to explore different opinions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But a lot of it sort of tweaks me a bit when people like Greger, they sort of come from a place where they think that they are morally superior to other people, and they just get unhinged as well. Have you ever watched them try and debate anyone? They really become unhinged when they're faced with facts.
Yeah.
Their ego again, because you're threatening their ego of them being wrong, and they they'll
Well, I think people like that too also have a lot of money involved in it as well. You know,
the stakes are higher for them.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
it's
when
about-
I'm wrong about something, I'm a teacher, I'm a student, I'm learning. I make a video and I have misinformation and somebody calls me on it and I go back and I'm like, oh crap, I screwed that up. I will apologize. Guys, I got it wrong. I've got to pull the video. I got to reword this and redo it. You have to be that way no matter where you are. You have to
you have to be prepared to learn something. I mean,
and you're malleable.
if you're not prepared to take on new information, you're not going to learn anything, are you? And we learn, a lot of us, we learn by making mistakes as well. You know, so we made a mistake, big deal. All right, so we move on.
Right.
And the science is always changing. We're learning things that we thought were true, the doctors, us, and it wasn't. Or we have new information that we just discovered because science is ever evolving. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's the I mean, and it's like that for so many people at the moment. We're even these big doctors, even the carnivore doctors like Berry and Hampton and Baker and the rest of them, they had to relearn a lot of stuff too along the way, and a lot of along the way they found out that what they learned in medical school, what they believed in, what they paid so much for their degrees for, is completely wrong, and it is unnecessary. Some of it,
I like what Scooby did. I think he wrote that. Did he write?
Yeah,
yeah.
Scooby the dog.
Tucker Goodrich is the guy's name. Tucker Goodrich. I did an interview with him. Yeah, and he's not a doctor, right? But he's an engineer. And there's these guys that are either engineers or bioengineers or whatever, and they're coming at it from a different angle and analyzing things. Doctor, not David Diamond. Who's that other guy? He's also a different kind of doctor. He's not a medical doctor. And so they can analyze things from their perspective, from their background, their background from college. Tucker is the man about seed oils. He knows more about seed oils than anybody I know. And yeah, if you Google him, you will, and look at some of his videos, you'll learn why we hate seed oils so much, why they're so poisonous. You can just like the same reason you can look up, people for oxalates, different specialists. They know their
Sally Norton.
Yeah, Sally Norton.
Yeah,
they know their stuff.
Yeah, another good source of information. Ivor Cummins.
Ivor Cummins.
He's an Irishman. He's an engineer in Ireland, but he does a lot of political stuff. But he also does a lot of diet and nutrition stuff as well. Talking about, he's been talking about heart disease for years now, and cholesterol and everything like that. So he's actually really good as well. He's an engineer, like I said, as an engineer, he approaches it from an engineer's perspective. Brilliant guy, does a lot of good work. So
Dave Feldman,
look at Dave Feldman.
Yep. He's one of my favorites on my YouTube. I have a couple of favorites, and Dave Feldman, he's a brilliant guy on the lipid energy model.
I think us engineers think differently than your average person.
My interview with Tucker's not on there anymore. The last person who wrote it. My last YouTube channel got accidentally deleted. I had that wonderful interview on there. So you won't find it.
You didn't have a backup video?
I had backups for all my videos, but the ones that were live didn't end up in the backup somehow. And that one was one of the live ones.
When they deleted my YouTube channel in 2010, my backups are on these little cassettes, and I lost them. I found a couple of them, but they're those little cassettes that Sony used to use for the video camera. My video camera broke. One of these days, I'll find another one of those cameras. Maybe they're still good. It'd be interesting because all my videos were on like energy scams. A lot of people were doing these free energy scams back in 2008 to 2010. So I made a lot of those videos, but they all got deleted when my channel got deleted. I started on YouTube in 2007.
Do you know why your channel got deleted?
I got into a battle with a couple of these people, and they used to advertise on YouTube. So I think what happened is that YouTube kind of sided with them because I was exposing their scam.
Oh my.
One of them was called, I think it was called Water to Gas or something like that, where you could run your car with water. And I had my chalkboard and I was showing the physics, why it wouldn't work, how much energy you lose doing it. And then I did an experiment. I had a lawnmower running with a similar device, and it actually took more fuel. I went through the whole thing. Then there was another guy that had some fake motor. It was supposed to be an over unity motor generator, and it was just a giant scam. We had people at the college when I was working there that had come up with these free energy scams. One of them was like energy from the vacuum. And what it was an electric motor with a hidden battery in the base. I mean, every one of these things is a scam.
Wow. And they somehow got, how did they got YouTube to agree to delete your channel?
I don't know what happened. All I know is we had some back and forth. They were trying to say, because I took pieces of their video to disprove it, and something about copyright. And I'm like, no, I can use it. It's fair use.
The other person has to give permission if like when I publish a YouTube video, when you publish a YouTube video, if let's say one of the ones you have, if I go in there and I download a copy of yours and I put it in and make it part of mine, you should get a message saying someone so-and-so, John Laspina, is using your video. Do you give him permission? Do you permit this? And you can say no, and then they can either just they can take that out of that person's video, they can mute it, and in extreme cases, they could delete your channel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I lost my channel. Nobody ever explained it. It just disappeared one day, and trying to get in contact with YouTube. This channel was also deleted, but it came back. But all the videos, most of my car videos and the stuff that I was doing, I had my still where I made diesel out of fuel. That all got deleted, and I was left with like 2 or 3 videos. And then I think the video where I was changing a tire with a Bobcat is still there. The video when the county was trying to get me was still. There's a couple of videos from the old days, but most of them were deleted.
Are you backing up on a hard drive?
Now everything's backed up.
All right.
I have a couple of hard drives that I keep. One's in the safe, and then I have some USB drives. But it's all just duck stuff now. There's nothing really controversial.
It is.
It's just a few live streams, some duck stuff. I haven't really started to attack anybody or try to disprove anything. It's a different world now because I'm just mostly with the carnivore community, and I don't really disagree. I can't get any of the vegans to come on my channel, or I can't go on theirs.
That would be a good interview with you and a vegan. I would love to. I would pay to see it. Pay-per-view.
Yeah,
there you go. Because the problem is that, like you said, the vegans don't want to use logic. They want to use emotion.
They want to use
everything. It's always something emotional for the animal rights and this and that, and they don't have any evidence to back it up. Then they keep saying that meat is poison and cancer and acid, and it's the same old stuff all the time.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And the thing is that because they can't prove anything, their argument always gets louder. So they always start yelling,
and the sarcasm comes out, and sometimes they start attacking your personality. It's like, where did that come from? We always have a discussion about the concept, and then all of a sudden, you're still talking about facts, and you're using vocabulary and concepts, and they're calling you names, or they're.
I like this stupid. Like they always like the first one. One of the first comments you always get is like, "What about eating a dog?" Like. That's supposed to be a
what about eating other humans?
What's the difference between eating a dog? Or like
I only eat vegans.
I mean, for a start, some cultures do eat dogs.
Right,
okay?
Korean.
Some Asian countries and things like that do eat dogs. So that argument just falls flat right there.
Right.
Number 2, dogs. There's not enough meat on them.
For
another one.
The dogs in this country, they're so heavily medicated, they're toxic. I wouldn't eat that.
Yeah, I think that'd be toxic too.
Mm-hmm. So, that's why they don't sell horse meat. Too many toxins.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just the most ridiculous sort of argument. They try and take the moral high ground, and they have no high ground to stand on.
Yeah,
it's just a pathetic attempt at trying to bring us down.
Like talking to somebody in a cult. You can't talk to somebody in a cult. No. They're brainwashed. Right. They're brainwashed. They're not open. Yeah. There has to be a crack open. And usually, and a lot of carnivores, not all of us, but many carnivores were vegans, and they got so sick, and they got to almost like rock bottom, where they had to make a change, and they heard about carnivore, and they like, what else do I have to lose? I'm dying. And they try it, and they're like, oh my, and their body wakes up, and they've never felt better before. And those are the ones. So if these vegans can, it's sad they have to get to that stage before they realize that meat is healthy and has everything we need for life, and that plants have just mostly anti-nutrients and fiber.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, the other problem.
I don't know if you've ever seen that meme. Like, you got all these different animals lined up, and they're like, where do you draw the line, sort of thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme before, but there's all these different animals. But like, I mean, the ruminant animals that we eat, I mean, they are completely different to carnivorous animals. Carnivorous animals don't have the fat or the nutrients that we need. That they're not grass fed, so they don't really give us the same nutrients.
Carnivorous animals are lean. They're not generating a lot of body fat because they're not eating a lot of carbohydrates.
We're not meatavores. We're fativores. We need fat. We need that. We need that mix of animal fats. That's the thing. They're just coming from a place of complete ignorance.
They are. They taste great. I like it.
Well, exactly. And when you think about it, we're not really, I mean, we can't live on plant materials. We're not made for it. Our system is not designed for it. If you look at deer and cattle and all these animals, you got animals out there that can eat low quality food and they can process it. But it's like anything else. The lower quality of the food, the bigger the factory has to be to extract what you need from it. So you have a cow with a multi-chambered stomach, and they actually have a second stomach for digestion that's acid like ours. You look at the gorillas, they have a long intestine where they can ferment their food. Then they go and eat their poop and re-ferment it. Right. We're not made like that. If we try to do that, we get sick. We have to eat higher quality foods.
And our stomach acid's different. We have
that's another thing.
We have the highest, almost like a vulture. We're at like 1.5.
That's another thing too, is that
for the meat.
Yeah. Like, you get these ridiculous so-called vegan athletes and things like that, and they say, like, okay, we eat beef to get big, get big muscles and things like that, but cows only eat grass to get big muscles, and kangaroos are very lean, muscular animals that only eat grass. But the difference is the stomach changes. Like, especially like cows, they'll actually eat their cud, like they bring it back up, they chew it again, they re-ferment
part of the process for 14
By the time it's processed in all their chambers, the same with kangaroos, they are basically eating branched chain amino acids all day. That's why they have such big muscular frames and bodies, and kangaroos are so big and strong. It's because they are basically eating branched chain amino acids all day long.
If you look at how their teeth are made, a cow's mouth is not just teeth. They also use the roof of their mouth to help break down the material. Right. They're designed to constantly eat. Whenever you see cattle or deer or goats or sheep or anything, they're always chewing. Chew. They have a large head, a lot of muscle where they can keep chewing. We don't have that. You try chewing that much, you're going to have a very sore jaw and your headache. And then on top of that, our teeth are going to wear down. Our teeth are not made for grinding plant material. We're not designed for that. We can't eat grass. How in the world are we going to eat grass? I mean, I guess you could eat grass, but you'll die. You're not going to get everything you need out of it.
If you're only eating lettuce and grass, and that's it, that's going to be a short life and a diseased life. But the people who are eating meat, and then they're having a side salad or they're having vegetables, they're doing all right if they can tolerate the vegetables, which some people can tolerate those. But people that are just vegans, I mean, they're just setting themselves up. What really hurts me is vegans, husband and wife, they have children and they raise their children.
Oh, that's hard.
To me, that's child abuse.
That is absolutely
them, just vegetable matter, and they're growing up. They're not going to be as tall. They're going to be unhealthy. They're not their growth plates are not going to happen properly because they're not giving them proper nutrition.
No, that's right.
And did you ever see it?
going to have all kinds of problems
Oh.
growing up on a vegan diet if they survive to adulthood,
Exactly.
which it's very difficult. They're
Did
just
you
going to
ever-
have all kinds of problems.
Did you ever see the picture of me when I was in junior high,
I think
standing next and all the other kids, how small I was?
you're sprouted up. Yeah.
It was really, really depressing. You know, when you're the smallest kid, you're skinny and you're short. You don't even want to live anymore. It's like you get picked on all the time. Everybody laughs at you. It's really depressing. So no wonder I just wanted to have a heart attack. I figured at the very least I could have a heart attack and not have to go to high school. But let me tell you, the way that I grew, I mean, if you look at the pictures of me later, it's like, I mean, I'm still skinny. I'm still like a toothpick, but I'm a 6'6" toothpick. And I'm the fastest moving toothpick you could ever imagine. And I'm twice as strong. I work with younger guys that have, they have pretty good looking physiques. They got the big arms and chests and they look really good. But when you put them to work, they burn out pretty quick. After 15, 20 minutes, they're sore and their back is hurting and they're not feeling good. And I'm the toothpick. You can laugh at how unhealthy I look. I could pass for a vegan.
Have you
I could
wondered,
stand-
Rick, what you would look like if you didn't do this at age 15 and go carnivore? And
I have a pretty good idea what I'd look like. It'd be,
diet, you
Have a look at Gregor.
You'd be
yeah. I would have ended up like Gregor. That would have been,
yeah.
that would have been really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather be how I am now, no matter what the vegans think I look unhealthy. I still have people that tell me I look unhealthy because I'm too skinny. I said, you just got to realize if you look at a tribe of people like in Africa or, some place where they need natural foods, they're all skinny. You don't see bodybuilder types living in the woods like that.
They're
They're
also
skinny.
used to seeing obese people in America. When you see everybody around you in the grocery store, at the baseball, everywhere, you see these fat butts. You see these heavy people. Seriously, you see obesity everywhere. It's really just open your eyes. It's everywhere. It's just amazing. So then when somebody sees somebody like me or like you, like, oh, you're too thin.
Mhm.
You're not normal. You don't fit in with everybody that's around you. And so that's why we get those comments. You're too thin. I've had those comments. Oh, you're taking this diet too far.
And then they see me chowing down on a heart attack burger. There's something wrong with you. You need to see a doctor. I said, what do I have to see a doctor? You're eating all those calories and you're not gaining weight. You must have cancer. I said, but I must have had cancer for 40 years.
A good cancer there.
I said, you know what? You're just jealous because you're over there eating that vegan Beyond Meat crap and you got a big stomach and I'm eating a heart attack burger, 2 pounds of the fattiest meat you could ever imagine with cheese and with 2 buns made out of pork rinds and eggs and cheese, probably 10,000 calories. And that's just lunch. And then dinner time, I'll have 2 pounds of beef, fatty beef. I have 6 eggs and a pound of beef for breakfast.
Because those calories, man. The more you eat, it's calories.
It's all those calories. When I drive in my car with no air conditioning, I'm getting a lot of calories.
There you go.
So I should be getting bigger. But instead, I'm getting skinnier. I mean, I only weigh between 190 and 200 pounds. And I've weighed that since I was 25.
And you're 6. How tall are you?
6'6".
6'6". Dang, you are tall.
Yeah. So you're about the same weight as me. I'm about a foot shorter.
What's the weight? What did you say?
190 to 200. It depends.
Right.
I've always been in that range. It doesn't matter how much I eat.
And I'm about 5'10".
And I can eat more than anybody. When it comes to meat, 4 pounds of meat, no problem. You think Sean Baker can eat a lot of meat? I can beat him any day.
You're taller than he is, yeah.
I'm about an inch taller than him, but he's probably 100 pounds more than me. He's huge,
Muscle,
but muscle.
Big
But
man.
when it comes to eating meat, nobody can beat me. Nope, not even the fat people I know can beat me at eating meat.
What does that tell
Because-
you right there about meat?
Well, it tells you that meat doesn't make you fat, and that's what I tell my vegan friends. The one vegan friend, he was in good shape until he got to be about 50. Then he started getting this gut that just won't go away, and now he's got all these digestive problems. I said,
so
look,
your body can get rid of the deuterium and all these other problems. When you're young, you can sort of get away with things, but as you get older, it's going to catch up. It doesn't. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when.
Yep.
that's right. And the thing is, they just keep
kids, or it's you never used to see young children obese. and now we're starting
Right.
to see a lot of unhealthy kids. They're eating so
Now,
much
now
high
it's
performance
difficult to
sugar.
find one that isn't.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
it's
And I
it's
see it
more
all the
difficult
time.
now to find a healthy child.
It's-
Everybody is overweight now. You know,
Yeah.
even the ones that are not overweight, they have these big stomachs that stick out,
Yeah,
even when they're skinny. It's so funny to see it. You see them almost as skinny as me
or you
with
get
a
the
big
slim
stomach
fat.
sticking out.
they've got the tofu
Or you
going
get the
on.
really slim. But sometimes, I mean, you can just see like, these people are just metabolically unhealthy. Even if they're not fat, they are weak. They are like they always have some sort of issue going on. But you can see they couldn't. I mean, like if you look at Gregor's like last photo I saw of Gregor, it looked like he's losing an arm wrestle to a fork.
Well, his arms are probably just as skinny as mine, but I could beat him at arm wrestling, I bet, easily.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't have any muscle. I'm just skinny. You know, there's
The muscle
nothing.
you have is probably
You,
all
you,
fat.
you're what you call wiry.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm quite tough. You know, you'll see me picking up a transmission or an engine block like nothing. But
Yeah.
some of these other guys, they all have back trouble anyway. Even the
Yeah.
one vegan, vegan bodybuilder that I know, that he's like 30 something and he looks pretty good. I mean, he looks a lot better than me, but he's got so much back trouble. He's complaining about his back, and it's like, why?
Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, they've just got they've got no iron, and like they're always low on iron, so they've always got muscle aches and things like that too. You
I
know,
had back problems, and that was because of there's other carbs, sugar. You're going to have all this inappropriate inflammation, and it causes
that's right.
people
All sorts of problems going on with the vegan diet.
I don't even know what back trouble feels like. Believe it or not,
want to know.
never had it. And they say when you're tall, you're always going to have back trouble.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
And then they say when you're tall, you have high blood pressure. Well, I've never had high blood pressure. I've always had low blood pressure. 90 over 60 when I relax. I can go up to 120 over 80 after I've been walking around. If I really push myself, I can go.
When I was younger, I had backache problems when I was younger, like on a low-fat diet, things like that. Like
Rick is unique, man. They should do a study just on Rick. I'm serious. You are an amazing N equals 1. The doctor should put studies out on your life because this is the way this is 40 years. You're going to have to change your title to 41s.
That's true. Well, that's why I put it on my username for a while, 40-year carnivore, and then I took it off because it'll be 41 and then 42 and then 50 and 60 and who knows.
Name.
Once I have a heart attack in my 90s, then that'll be the end of it.
You won't. You're not. You're going to live over 120.
I don't know. No one in my family's lived over 94.
They also haven't eaten your diet, though, right?
Well, that's true. I'm on a death wish, my carnivore diet.
And that's why you're living. Guys, I have to get going here. This has been...
Yep, no worries, mate. It's actually been about an hour and a half, so we might call it a day. But actually, I just wanted to get to this comment. Like, John, you said that, you're taking this diet too extreme. But, have a look at it, this. Like, you look at vegans trying to, turn their animals, their pets, to vegan.
Oh, I know. It's
I
mean, that's extreme, and that's incredibly cruel.
It is.
Have you ever seen what happens to a vegan cat?
Well, I know that a vegan dog starts to get type 2 diabetes, and they get...
Same thing happens to cats, and they start developing tumors.
Yeah,
they start developing all sorts of illnesses. So,
that's what happened to my friend's cat. Cat died of cancer at age 12.
Jesus.
And then the thing was, I was telling her, I said, "Well, what'd you do with the cat?" "Oh, they had to put to sleep." "So you had your animal killed?" "Well, no, it was suffering." I said, "Well, I thought that animals were supposed to live. You're not supposed to kill them, and you have your cat killed." Meanwhile, my cat Garfield lived to 18 years old and then dropped dead. He was a 20-pound beast. This cat was like a miniature bobcat. He was big, he was fast and friendly. The bad thing about Garfield is that he was too friendly. He'd cuddle up to you, and he'd when you're sitting in the chair, he'd get next to you. He'd push you. The cat was like, it was like a hydraulic press. He'd be pushing you with his paws. He was very strong. But he lived to 18 and I found him in the morning dead. Must have had a heart attack and died. He came from somebody else. They raised him on cat food, so he may have had some damage. And he did have some missing fur when I got him, but he grew into a beast. And my black cat lived to the age of 21. And somebody told me there's no way that a cat could live that long, especially with you. You're giving him meat from the dumpster and you're letting him eat birds and mice and stuff like that. I said, well, I don't have the money for the fancy cat food. I'm not going to give him that duck food that they sell as cat food. That crunchy stuff, that's not good for him. So I'd hit the dumpster and get the meat.
Garbage.
Oh, it's garbage. And the thing is, cats don't really like fat. So I gave him the lean meat. I ate the fatty pieces myself. But cats don't really like fat. It gives them diarrhea and it makes them kind of I don't know. It doesn't agree with them. They can throw up. But if you give them lean meat and fish and all that stuff, they thrive on it. You give them you give them a whole bird, they'll eat the bird, practically eat the feathers. It's amazing what a cat will eat.
Dogs actually too. Like, do you guys ever see that dog had a tumor on its nose and they cured it purely by putting it on carnivore diet?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah. This is actually part of Professor Seyfried's study. Before they, when I was talking to Seyfried, he was saying like they haven't actually published papers on human trials yet, but if you put it down to how many people they've cured one dog. And what they did with this dog, he had a massive tumor on his nose, a cancerous tumor. And the vet just said, look, we're going to have to put it down or give it chemotherapy or this sort of stuff. What they did is put it on a strict carnivore diet, and the tumor just kept shrinking. And it eventually just completely
That's amazing.
left. It wasn't even any scar tissue left.
It didn't get its sugar that it needed.
Yeah, and he lived an extra 9 years.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
All right, guys.
It's incredible.
I'm going to jump off here because I have to be somewhere.
All right, guys. I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks to everyone for jumping in and listening, having some quite good questions. Hope you had fun today. And we'll see you all again soon. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, DC. See you, Rick.